Right, so if you're okay, just go in with it, just do your own thing. Okay, that's fine. If you want to look up here, that's great too. Um, Maybe I'll just remind you, right? 0, 1, 2, 4. We would say that we round down. If there's a number of 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, we call that rounding up. Right? So you're essentially that's what you're doing. Write the following as decimals and percent. Watch this word. I don't know if you do not round if there's finite decimals. So meaning it ends on your calculator, right? It only has like 3 or 4 and then it just ends. Then just use all of it. So 3/4. Where's my calculator right here? This has been with me for a long, long time. It's my favorite calculator here. So just right, always remember if it's a fraction, it's top divided by the bottom number, right? So this one, I know a lot of you knew this one, right? 0.75. How do I write it as a percent? You go 0.75 times 100, right? If you multiply something by 100, you get it as a percentage. If you want it back to a decimal, you divide it, right? So just times 100, as you could tell, just got to make sure you put a percent symbol or sign right next to it. That's a must. Right? 5 divided by 6. Oh, that's not a finite. So watch what I do here. 0.8333. You want to write down at least 4 decimals, right? This keeps going. Dot, 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 right? So pause here for a bit. This is what I want you to do. This is what shows on your calculator. If you want to state this as a decimal, right, you would just round it to 2 decimals. So you basically cut it right here. You cut it right there. But before you do that, what's beside the number that you're cutting, right? You look at that, that's a 3, so that means that that 3 stays, okay? So that'd be 0.83 as a decimal. But as a percentage, watch what happens. I just multiply my answer on the calculator by 100, and it's 83.33%, okay? 83.33%. I should say this, right? I did multiply this by 100, right? If you want to make sure you get that right. So just saying 0.83 and then turning it into 83% would have been wrong. It's a rounding mistake. So we always go back to what's on the calculator to state either one. 3 divided by 32, that's a finite. That is finite. So actually I write down the whole thing, 9375. I don't need to, like that's good as a decimal. Just leave it like that. Multiply that by 100. That gets you, if you multiply that by 100, you get 9.375%. So decimal, this was finite, right? Finite. It has an end to it. 19 divided by 23, not finite, right? So you just go 8, 2, 6, 0, 8, and that keeps going. Okay. If I round it to 2 decimals, guys, I'm cutting it. You're saying, sorry, I don't want to worry about all that. So I'm just going to say, cut it right here. So it's going to be 0.8 what? 3, because there's a 6, the neighbor is a 6, so bumps it up to 3. Yes. And if you want this as a percentage, you multiply what's on your calculator. Watch this. On your calculator times 100. And you got to be careful. 82.6 what? This is a 0, but the 8 bumps that to a 1. Yeah. So tricky. So tricky, right? But you gotta, like, this is why I'm using this worksheet to teach you what happens when we stated as a decimal or percent. We go by what's on their calculator, right? The rest I'm going to leave up to you. I don't know, would this throw you off having a whole number in front? 3 1/4. So what you do, maybe I will just do 1 here. You go 1 divided by 4. We all know it's 0.25, right? Then you add the 3 in front of it because it's 3 whole and 1/4. Okay, so this is actually 3.25. That's already a decimal. So what would that be as a percentage? That's right, multiply that by 100. Some of you just shift the decimal, I know. Go ahead and do that, that's fine. So that's really the equivalent of 325%. Okay, the rest I'll leave that up to you for now. Some good old rounding. You remember rounding? Of course you do. I would like to, yeah. Go ahead. I would like you to, by the time you do the final exam, I would like there to be 0 rounding mistakes. In between, it's fine. Tests, quizzes, if you're still learning, big deal. Okay, so nearest 100 is 2 decimals. Cut it right here. This is actually going to stay 17.98. Why? Because this number is less than 5. So the 8 stays 8. Okay. The next one, if you round to 2 decimals right here, this would be 0.2. The 4 bumps to a 5 because you have a 9 next to it, which is 5 or greater. Okay. And so forth. Let's do a ripple effect. I did this ripple effect. Let's do this one here. If you were to round it right there, okay, the 6 bumps this to a 0, right? Basically a 10. So you got to carry over 1. Also turns to 10, right? And then you bump this one to a 9, right? So basically, this turns out to be 259.00. Yeah. Okay. I will leave the rest up to you. This one is very important. Write the first unit, this one. Determining the following. So if you have percentage, we're going to do taxes and such. Percentage of a number, in this case, it's a dollar amount. What would that be in terms of dollars? Okay. So remember, always turn percentage to decimals. Okay. There's going to be very few exceptions, and I'll show you that way down the road. But always turn percentages to decimals. So we're going to take this, we're going to go 3 over what? It's really 3 over 100, which gives you, remember, 3 divided by 100, that's 0.03, right? 0.03. So we're going to go 0.03 of in math, right? If you want 3% of something, you've got to go times 250. So 3% of 250, that's what we're after. So go ahead and just times that by 250. And that's $7.50. Your calculator just shows you this, right? It's okay, but there's 2 things wrong with it. This is the province. Well, first of all, it's a dollar amount, so that should be there. And whenever it's a dollar amount, folks, there have to be 2 decimals. So you have to make this 750, right? You wouldn't put 7.5 on a price tag, right? It's 750. So remember, dollar amounts need 2 decimals. The only exception is if they're both 0. If it's 0, 0, you don't need to, but you'll see me do that quite often. Let's do one more here. I'll skip this one. I'll go straight to this one. Turn this into a decimal. I won't show you the work. I'll just tell you that I'm dividing it by 100. 0.85 divided by 100. That's 0.0085 times 675. It's dollars, right? So we multiply by 675, and Houston, we have a problem, right? 5.74, right? 74. Because the 3 has a 7 next to it to the right, so you bump it up. I like to circle my final answer most of the time. I do that, okay? So keep that in mind. If it's the E is people, so make sure your final number is not a decimal. It's a whole number. You need to round to a whole number. I'll leave that to you as well, because I will kind of just go over it tomorrow briefly. I'll have the key up, and I will post the answer key. So if you want to go home after today and try this, the video is going to be posted. Also good sleeping material, right? If you need a playlist or whatever, just put my voice on, and you'll be gone in seconds. Right? Okay, looking at my time here, solving the unknown variable. The fancy, you know this as cross multiply and divide, most likely. I don't know what your teacher called it. All kinds of fancy names out there. But this is really called, in the math world, it's proportional reasoning. That's what we call that. Proportional reasoning. And proportional reasoning is basically saying, hey, if this is true, then fill in the blank so that the other side is true as well. Right? That's what it is. If this is true, we want this to be equal to the other side. So what must that be? So you ready for it? I don't know how you were taught, but this is how I teach it. Okay? Look for the variable. Which side is it, right or left? In this case, it's on the right side. You start there. You go to the number, put your pencil on it, and then you will cross multiply, and you divide by what is left over. And so that's not good enough for me. That's just for you to know what you need to do. You will say this: n is equal to 38. Are you okay with brackets? 38 times 45 divided by 76. And every time we divide in math, it's a fraction and the number gets put in the denominator. Can you handle that? Grab your calculators and you go 38 times 45 divided by 76. And you get 22.5. No units, because there are no units given. This is your final answer. Now I will tell you what I don't want to see. I don't want to see this, because that is wrong. Okay? N is 22.5, not the whole thing. First of all, I don't like choo-choo trains. I don't like this equals to this equals to this. Like, don't do that, right? I usually show my work going downward, so this is a big no-no, okay? So make sure you show your work. It takes seconds to show your work. Really, like 15 seconds and you're done. So don't be lazy, okay? Next, this one. Where's your variable? It's on the left side, but you always go to the number. So you know where you start now. Oops. Anger issues. You go down, right? Multiply, and you divide by what's left. This is your formula to success. Works every time. So 3.95 times 95.7. You don't need to use brackets if that maybe brackets haven't been good to you in the past. That's okay. Okay. So that answer is 3.01. The standard rounding in this course is 2 decimals. There's 1 unit where we break that rule. We use all decimals, but that comes way down the road. So for now, I'm just going to say 2 decimals. Final. Your final answer is 2 decimals. Not, you don't round 2 decimals, 2 decimals, 2 decimals, and then again 2 decimals on your final answer. We only do it on our final answer. So I'll leave that up to you. You can try those. So follow me to that next page for a minute here. So the blanks mean it's on you, right? So there's more on the other side. I put some uglier numbers like decimals. Sure. Sure. Just write down the answers at least, or one question. And on the back side, what do we have there? I will go to, I'll try that H question. Kind of want you to do it, but maybe you need a little push. You're good? That's right. Yeah. Okay, come with me. Okay, this is proportional reasoning, but it's not obvious. Okay, watch this. If a car uses, here come the highlighters. If it's this much per 100 kilometers driven, if that is true, right? They say, hey, find out the amount of fuel in liters required to drive that distance. Right? They want you to find the liters. So how would you do this? Same as before, but now we have units, right? 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers. Write that down with units and all. We turn that into a fraction. Is equal to, they will only give you one piece on the other side, and in this case they give us kilometers. Kilometers need to match the kilometers on the other side, so they go in the denominator. Okay? That is basically the only thing you need to watch out for, that you match the units. And so that means that we need to figure out the X number of liters that will make this happen. If you want to make a trip to, let's say, Saskatoon, right? Whatever, you go on Google Maps, like, oh, this is how far it is, and you should know how many liters your car uses per 100 kilometers. You can kind of budget how much money you're going to need to make it there and back, right? So we cross multiply and divide. So X will be 1259 times 8.5 divided by 100. Not too bad, is it? You can handle it. This is 107.02. And what did I just find? I'm finding X, which I know has to be liters. Right? Boom, you're done. What's gas right now? Anybody? Prices? 154 or something? 1.549 or something like that? So you'd have to pay, right? If it's this many liters that you need, just multiply that by the cost. So it would take you $165 more or less, to gas, to pay for that fuel. You gotta be kidding me, right? Yeah, I just closed my eyes. You know, I don't know if you've seen that one, right? The masks, like instead of putting the mask, you just put the mask over your eyes and fuel up, right? So you don't see the cost on the. 6, I'm gonna jump this. So I hope you're okay with that. Let's jump to 6 here. This is going to be very big in this unit, in this course, before and after tax, right? Before and after tax. And the name says it all. Before tax means find the price before taxes are added, and after tax, obviously, you need to add. So 7 and 5, it is in this province. This is a total of, yes. Unless the government changes it, right? Right, so Jenna purchases 3 pop drinks for $1.25 as well as 4 Dream Donuts, $1.50 each. So how about we do this? We go 3 pop times $1.25 plus, is that still a thing, the Dream Donuts? I don't know. Is McDonald's still offering those? Didn't they have Dream Donuts? Yeah, there we go. So obviously it didn't make it, they didn't do a very good job at advertising that one. 4 times 150 is $6, right? So you just add, so it's important that you multiply first, right? Break it down. 4 times 150 is 6, and then we just add it, right? So that would get you to a subtotal of $975, and I'll just go BF taxes. Right? If you want after tax, 9.75. This is the trick, folks. Watch closely. I multiply anything by 1.12. And I will explain why. If you buy something that's 100%, right? If they add taxes to it, it's 12%, correct? So what do you end up paying in total? 112%, correct? If you divide 112 by 100, you end up with 1.12. So that's why we do that. So anything in the store ever, you see that Nintendo Switch or whatever, multiply by 1.12, you know how much you're going to need at the till, right? So you're going to go 9.75 times 1.12. And so this is the price after taxes. There's another way of doing that, right? Your teachers may have done this. 975 times 0.012. You figure out that number and then you add it, right? Same thing. You get the same thing. This is quicker. Okay? This is a lot quicker. So this is before taxes, after taxes. Okay, so we took this 975, plugged it in there, and I went 1.12. This is important as well. I'm going to quit there. So I'm just going to ask you to do the first 2 pages. Can you handle that? I think you can handle that to the best of your abilities. To the best of your abilities. You try the first page and the second page by tomorrow. And I will post the key to this on Google Classroom. You got this? First 2 pages, right? Write it down because, quite frankly, we all forget at the end of the day, right? Like, what was it again, right? Thank you, guys.